Okay, we're continuing the laws of Shabbat, practical laws of Shabbat. Okay, so we ended off over here. We were talking about working on Friday afternoon. So it says, our Chachamim said, someone who works on Friday afternoon from Mincha time and on, let's say nowadays around maybe 4:30 and on, he doesn't see a blessing from that work. So it says here, one must stop working approximately 2.5 hours before sunset. However, in the summer when the days are longer, one must stop working approximately 3 hours before sunset. Light work for Shabbat needs, such as sewing on a button or making a minor repair on a garment, is permitted until it is actually Shabbat. According to other poskim, it is forbidden to do any physical labor just before Shabbat, but business activities, buying and selling, are permitted. However, a storekeeper must leave his store early enough to be able to reach his home and be ready for Shabbat. So technically speaking, ideally, work in an office and stuff like that, if you can, it's best not to work after Mincha Ketana, which is about 2.5 hours. We went through all this, no? We spent like a few hours on the phone discussing all this money. It's about 2.5 hours before sunset. In the summer, it's a little bit longer. 3 hours before sunset. Okay? You work on Fridays?
Sometimes, yeah.
You knew this?
Usually, Fridays is always slow day.
It's a half day, huh? Okay. Jewish technicians. In the event of an accidental breakdown, such as a blackout, it is permitted to bring a Jewish technician to make the necessary repairs before Shabbat. It is also permitted to hire Jewish people to clean the home, as long as they leave in sufficient time to be able to return home and be ready for Shabbat. So if you have somebody who's a Jewish worker, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you have to make sure to be able to leave enough time that you can get home for Shabbat. It says here, it's a mitzvah to take a haircut and shave before Shabbat in order to receive the Shabbat queen in a respectful manner. It's a mitzvah to do it, like we discussed last time, on Friday specifically. Therefore, if one did not manage to shave or take a haircut earlier in the day, it's permitted to take a haircut, shave, or bath just before Shabbat. You would think like, oh, this might be considered work. He says no, just because it's in the honor of Shabbat, anything that's for the honor of Shabbat is not considered. Okay, laundry on Friday. According to Rabbi Ben Sion Abba Shaul, it is forbidden to use a washing machine on Friday unless one has a dryer and the clothes can be dry before Shabbat. So you shouldn't leave it into the thing. According to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, it's permitted to begin a wash cycle just before Shabbat, even if the washing machine will continue working on Shabbat. You can put, there's a question, can you put the dirty clothes in the washing machine before Shabbat? As long as it keeps going on Shabbat, there's no worry. What would be the worry? Maybe we would think there's a few things that could possibly go on. But let's say, for example, if you have wet clothes, you're not allowed to hang wet clothes outside on Shabbat. Right? People are going to think that you, people are going to think that you washed it on Shabbat. Or hang drying clothes to dry, things along those lines. But putting it into the washing machine, he says there's no problem whatsoever. Okay, non-observant drivers. One may not induce other Jews to desecrate Shabbat. Therefore, ideally, it is forbidden to hire a Jewish driver to drive one so near to Shabbat that the driver will inevitably drive back home on Shabbat. It's a very important halakha. You're going to Kanisa on Friday night, you have your mom drop you off. For you, it's okay, you get there 5 minutes before sunset. For her, by the time she gets home, she's cutting it close last minute. You have to be careful. Not only are you obligated on your own Shabbat, you're obligated not to cause others to desecrate Shabbat. If you're the cause of someone else, that's a problem. So watch out for that.
Are you allowed to, so you're walking to Kanisa and someone else is driving, you want to go in their car?
Yeah, as long as you don't cause them to, meaning if they're not going in that direction already, and then you cause them to go there, and then they're going to make it back late, and they could cause them to break Shabbat.
No, they're going to drive back on Shabbat.
Are they going there anyway?
Yeah.
I think that's fine. But if they're not going there, and by you making them drive extra few minutes, they're going to have to be obligated to drive back on Shabbat. That's a problem. That's why they say, Rabbi Chaim always suggests that during the summertime, you should try, where sunset is later, try to do Mincha Arvit on Friday night much earlier. So even for the people who drive back, which is not good, at least they're driving back before sunset. Even though they said Arvit already, they accepted Shabbat, but according to Torah law, if they drive back before sunset, it's not breaking Shabbat. So it's still much better. Okay. Non-observant, permitted automatic labors. These acts, which are forbidden on Shabbat, may be performed on Friday before Shabbat, even if they will continue during Shabbat. Placing dirty clothing with water and soap in a container in order that the stain will soften during Shabbat. Turning on an irrigation system where the water will be running during Shabbat. setting up a wind or water-powered mill to grind wheat, setting up a trap to catch mice or insects, and placing uncooked food onto the fire such that it will become cooked during Shabbat. It's a huge question. You're not allowed to leave half cooked, for example, food on the plata. It has to either be fully cooked or raw. Right? It has to be. You understand?
Raw.
So if it's raw, you're not going to come and stir the coals to make it cook, because you stirring is not going to make it cook. It takes time for it to cook if it's a raw piece. If it's half cooked, you're going to try to stir it to warm it to make it fully cooked so you can eat it. If it's fully cooked, you're not going to stir.
You're allowed to cook raw?
You're not allowed to cook, but you can put it on before Shabbat and leave it. Understand? Okay. Let's see if he comes back. Okay, we're in chapter 2 now. Friday travel. You're allowed to travel on Friday. So according to halakha, one may travel on Friday only if there is enough time to reach one's destination and prepare oneself for Shabbat. Our sages did not define the precise distances and times one may travel before Shabbat. They left this decision to the discretion of the individual. However, one must take increasing traffic congestion into account before deciding when to leave, especially in inclement weather. Before you leave, you travel somewhere on Friday, you have to know for sure that you're leaving enough time for you to arrive and to get ready for Shabbat. If that's not the case, you're not allowed to travel at all. For example, someone who wants to take an afternoon flight during the winter, it's probably not going to, no matter where it's going to be, it's probably not going to be okay, because it's going to take time for you to get there to the airport and fly to the next place, get to your hotel, wherever you're going. You're probably going to get it close to Shabbat. Which one you have to take into play? Or like, let's say you want to go on a trip, road trip in your car. You have to know when you have to go. Or he's going to talk about this also. I think, let's say you're going to someone's house for Shabbat. You have to let them know that you're coming to their house for Shabbat, or at least they need to know that you're coming so that they can prepare food for you. I mean, usually most people do that. Nobody shows up to someone's house anyway without knowing, but you get the idea. Traveling by ship. Let's say you want to go on a cruise. Our sages rule that a person should try to avoid sailing on the sea on Shabbat because of the lack of oneg Shabbat pleasure, due to the humidity of the open sea and extreme turbulence, which can be unpleasant. A person embarking on an ocean voyage should therefore do so at least 3 days before Shabbat. Halakha says, if you want to go on a cruise on Shabbat, first of all, the drivers have to be non-Jewish. Second of all, you have to start going on the cruise a few days before so that you're not seasick. You get used to it by then. So some say by Tuesday. I think it's brought down. I think Rav Ovadia says by Wednesday you can even go. I think Wednesday morning you can go on a cruise. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By Friday night you can even stay on the cruise as it's moving on Friday, Shabbat. As long as it's not.
Start on Thursday.
No, you can't start on Thursday. It's important. You want to go on a cruise. You're allowed to go Thursday for Shabbat. Technically speaking, or not allowed. Good. Contemporary poskim. Contemporary poskim discuss whether this is true today when modern ships are equipped with satellite navigation systems that guide the ship through safe passages and avoid turbulent areas. Furthermore, sensitive passengers can take special pills that will help them relax. So he's going to discuss now what about nowadays. We have all these different types of things that people can avoid being seasick. So what's the rule? Very practical. You ever thought of going on a cruise or Shabbat? It might happen. Another reason one should not embark onto a ship during the 3 days before Shabbat is that these 3 days prior to Shabbat are related to the coming Shabbat, and one would be putting oneself in a situation whereby one would automatically not observe Shabbat the way it should be observed. However, if one starts the voyage more than 3 days before Shabbat, it does not seem as though one is putting himself in an automatic situation of Shabbat desecration. So he says, another reason, not only seasick, but whenever you go within 3 days of Shabbat, you're for sure going to be breaking Shabbat. If you go Tuesday, Wednesday, it's not for sure. Maybe now the question has to be, okay, let's say you know for sure that it's going to be a week-long cruise. That's the question now. Let's see what he says. Ideally, one is not permitted to set sail within 3 days prior to Shabbat if the purpose of the trip is for pleasure. But for a mitzvah such as freeing a Jewish captive or going to Israel, it is permitted to begin an ocean voyage even on Friday afternoon, provided that the ship is owned and operated by non-Jews. Some authorities maintain that it is also permitted to travel on a ship operated by Jews if the purpose is to perform mitzvah. According to the Ramah, any journey except one solely for personal pleasure is considered a mitzvah, even traveling to visit a friend. Wow, he's very lenient. He says that any travel that's not for your own physical pleasure. Let's say you're not just going on vacation. Any other reason to go on a travel? I don't think business would fall into this. No, I think maybe something for mitzvah. You're going to visit someone. You're going to Israel. You're going to Bikur.
I got it.
So one of those reasons, you would even be allowed to go Friday afternoon.
On ship.
Yeah. Okay. The prohibition of sailing 3 days before Shabbat was established because it takes up to 3 days for a person to get accustomed to the different climate, and there's a fear of getting stomach disorders due to the humidity on an open sea and extreme sea turbulence on unstable ships and there could cause lack of oneg Shabbat. You see how much the Chachamim went to an extent just to prevent you from not having oneg Shabbat, and making sure that you're enjoying Shabbat. It's so important to enjoy Shabbat. And it's like, you would say, what if I enjoy the cruise? I don't get seasick, I enjoy it. Still, the Chachamim were worried for the amount of people who do get sick. They said that everyone, it's possible you could get sick. I don't want to give you that opportunity. I don't want to give you that chance. Therefore, some poskim are of the opinion that this prohibition does not apply today if the ship is concerned is a large, stable ocean cruise liner, because it doesn't have seasick problems, provided that the crew and majority of passengers are not Jewish. So he brings a good opinion. This is a very good leniency that, technically speaking, if majority are non-Jewish drivers, there's no, according to this reason of getting sick, if they have like a closed ship, for example, you're not outside, it would be perfectly fine. There'd be no issue. Or let's say a ship or let's say someone who doesn't get seasick, or let's say he says stable ocean cruise liner, that it doesn't cause a lot of wind and there's no fear of stomach disorders and stuff like that. Okay? According to some poskim, the 3-day count includes Shabbat and is therefore permitted to depart on Wednesday. While other poskim bring the opinion that 3-day count does not include Shabbat itself, therefore it's forbidden to depart on Wednesday on. I think Rav Adai says from Wednesday you can go. Okay, so from Wednesday. So if it's not for mitzvah, let's say you're going for business. The question is not like this. Does the same thing apply for a ship as it does for an airplane, for example? Let's say, for example, someone is going to do mitzvah.
48-hour flight?
Yeah, they're very long flights. They're like 30-hour flights. You're going to one of these Japan places or Bangkok or whatever. It's like a nice 24-hour flight, something like that. Can you leave Thursday? Can you leave Thursday morning, whatever it is, with the whole time zone switch? If it's for mitzvah, let's say, for example. But let's say to go to Israel. If the non-Jews are flight attendants. If the non-Jews, everyone's non-Jewish. That's a good question. I don't know the answer. We have to look into this. Okay? But it's a good question. Okay. Mitzvah trip. There's a difference of opinion among the authorities whether a business trip is considered a mitzvah. There you go. This is your question. If I'm going for business, I'm going on a cruise for business. Is this mitzvah or not? Obviously, if a person has no other means of feeding his family, it is a great mitzvah. However, if one has enough to live on and has no economic pressures, one must rely on one's faith in Hashem and not compromise one's Shabbat pleasure by subjugating oneself to the inevitable effect of the weather at sea.
The difference for mitzvah is just Wednesday or Tuesday?
The difference for mitzvah? No, it's Wednesday or Friday. If it's
for mitzvah, you can go on Friday.
You can go even on Friday, as long as it's a non-Jewish driver. No, if they come to you this summer, they tell you, we want to go on a cruise. We're going to Mexico. I don't know. Can you go? We're leaving Thursday morning. Shibigi, what are you going to say? We're already booked.
My parents telling me?
Yeah, we're going. We want to go on a cruise, we want to go. First question is, why do you want to go?
For pleasure.
For pleasure, to enjoy it. You have to leave Wednesday if you want to do that. Wednesday morning. Wednesday at least. But he says that in addition to the humidity in the open sea and extreme sea turbulence can be unpleasant and cause stomach disorders, which might diminish one's Shabbat enjoyment. Again, you got to see. It's not so simple. First of all, you got to look into it to see that all the first first step is that all the drivers and everyone's not Jewish. You can't have any workers that are Jewish. That's what he said earlier, right? Provided that the crew and majority passengers are not Jewish. Meaning, even if some of the passengers are Jewish, majority can't be. And the crew all has to be goyim.
The passengers,
Majority of passengers have to be non-Jewish. Because if majority are Jewish, the non-Jews are doing for Jews majority. The halakha says, if you have a group of non-Jews and a group of Jews together, let's say in a hotel, it happens a lot, and the goy comes and does something for everyone. If there's majority non-Jews, you can benefit. If there's majority Jews, you cannot benefit.
Isn't that a problem in Israel?
Yeah, in Israel it comes up a lot. Hotels are... In hotels it's not simple. My biggest question always is that you go to a hotel and you want to go sit at the restaurant in the hotel. What do? You tell them, put it on the room. I don't pay for it. But the guy who's working there writing it down is not Jewish.
Not Jewish?
He's Jewish. So how are you telling him to do? What can he do? So I think the only thing to do is ask him, it's okay, you don't need to write it down, just maybe we'll put a note or whatever. I don't know what the answer is, because there's no way to get around it. If you want to, you're allowed to sit there, but now by you telling the guy what you want, he's gonna write it down. I don't know.
Also, majority of the guests in the hotel are Jewish.
Yeah, I mean that's a different issue. But here, this guy's a Jewish worker. We're talking about if it's non-Jewish workers and majority are Jewish, you can't do that either. Okay, but simply speaking, if it's just for pleasure, Wednesday, if it's for mitzvah, so you're going to Israel, you're going to take a cruise to Israel. You can leave even on Friday as long as it's non-Jewish worker. Jewish crew. It's forbidden to travel on Shabbat in a ship operated by a Jewish crew, since one may not benefit from the Shabbat distribution of other Jews. However, if the owner of the ship is Jewish, but not the crew, it may be permitted to travel on the ship on Shabbat. One should consult the rabbi or rabbinic authority in such a situation. It's not so simple. You have a Jewish owner, but everyone's non-Jewish. Because there, the money is going to the Jewish owner, but the non-Jews are working. So you have to ask a rabbi in that situation what the deen is. Okay, sailing on sweet waters. It's permitted to set sail on Friday before Shabbat in sweet waters such as Great Lakes or the Mississippi River, because the fear of obtaining stomach disorders does not exist when sailing on sweet calm waters. So let's say you want to go on Friday with your friends, you want to go with your little, what do you call it? Kayaking. Can you do that or not? He says it's allowed. Why?
Friday.
On Friday. Why? Because over there you don't have a worry of getting seasick. It's not like the same as going on a ship or going on a cruise. Okay?
Can you do it on Saturday?
No, not on Saturday. First of all, you can't carry on Saturday. That's outside their roof. Second of all, going in the ocean itself, you're not allowed to go in the ocean on Shabbat either. Going in the ocean on Shabbat, it's not like going in the pool. There's one whole issue that the Gemara talks about, that you need rims around. For example, there's a way to allow a person to go in the pool on Shabbat. That's a much less issue. With the ocean, there's no rims around the ocean. So there's an issue that a person may build a raft, let's say if he's drowning, whatever it is, to keep him alive. In the pool, you don't have that worry. You understand? Ocean is going on the beach and going on the ocean on Shabbat is a very, very difficult issue.
Beach meaning
Even on the beach, because
in the sand or in the water?
Going in the sand, going in the water, because everywhere you walk, in your sandals, you're carrying the sand with you, you're walking with it. Anywhere you go, you have a towel, you have everything carrying on you, whatever. It's not so simple, because a lot of times you forget. Walking anywhere without an eruv is not simple. Okay, here you get to a question. So he says, I own a ship that is operated by a non-Jewish captain and non-Jewish sailors. Am I allowed to embark on this ship before Shabbat and to sail on it on Shabbat? This is the question.
Someone owns a ship with non-Jewish
workers, non-Jewish sailors.
What's the question?
He's Jewish. Can he go on the ship over Shabbat? He owns the ship.
What day?
So he says you should consult a rabbinical authority as to how to avoid desecrating Shabbat when you're on the ship. A journey of this kind is normally permitted only when the ship leaves the port at least 3 days before Shabbat, drops anchor before Shabbat, and remains anchored through the entire Shabbat. Meaning, Silverstein is of the opinion that when a ship is Jewish owned but operated by non-Jewish sailors who refuse to drop anchor and continue to sail on Shabbat at their own initiative because they fear a storm is approaching, then the Jew need not argue with them because they are sailing on Shabbat in order to save their lives. Okay, that's a different situation. But he's going to talk about going on an airplane right now also. But now the question is like this. Let's say you know that the cruise is going on Shabbat. It travels on Shabbat. Are you allowed to go on that cruise? I don't know if you're allowed to go on the cruise if you know for sure that it's going to be desecrating Shabbat.
Desecrating Shabbat, you mean moving on Shabbat?
Yeah.
Did you say that you're allowed to?
No, so this whole time, I guess what he was referring to was traveling before, not knowing when, meaning knowing that they're going to anchor into the ground. And even if they end up saying, no, we're traveling on Shabbat, you can just stay quiet. But not initially going on with the intention that they're going to be traveling. So I'm going to ask the rabbi after to see what he says, but if you know for sure that they're going to be traveling on Shabbat. I personally don't think that's going to be allowed. If you know for sure here. He talks about airplanes here. But, let's see, what did we say earlier with the ship? No, so it sounds like no, it doesn't make it clear. Let's to look into the halakha again. It doesn't make it clear. If it's referring to knowing from the beginning that it's going to be traveling Shabbat, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like from here that it's only permitted when the ship leaves the port at least 3 days before Shabbat and drops the anchor before Shabbat and remains anchored. And in a case where they don't stop and they say no, we have to go, you don't have to. I'm going to ask, okay? I'm going to look into it. Okay, he says traveling by plane. We'll go a few more, we'll finish this point. Ideally, one should avoid taking any flight on Friday, even if it is for a short distance, especially if one would be flying eastward, because of the possibility of unexpected delays. However, if one has no other choice, one should book hotel accommodation at the airport of one's destination prior to departure in order to avoid an unpleasant Shabbat. Should a delay occur. So meaning if you're going to go somewhere, you're leaving, you have to for sure make sure that Friday if you leave, you're going to be able to get there before Shabbat.
What is eastward?
Huh?
Why does eastward matter?
Wait, I said eastward?
Yeah. Especially if one's traveling eastward.
Oh, I guess because if you're going eastward, the wind's pushing in a direction. So you're moving faster and it's a shorter flight.
Okay.
Even let's say if someone's going like that, you should book hotel and everything beforehand, make sure everything's set. And, meaning you want to go, I don't know, to Miami. You want to leave Friday morning.
Saying book a hotel in JFK airport, just in case you get to leave.
Saying ideally book it there. Ideally you shouldn't even take that flight on Friday. You should do it earlier. But he's saying it's if you have to, you have to.
Is it really problematic to take a 7 a.m. flight?
It's a problem on Friday. Also it depends. You got to see when Shabbat starts. Meaning now Shabbat's at like 7. If you take a 7 a.m. flight and you're supposed to land by 9, you're giving yourself a good amount of time. Even if there's a 5-hour delay, you're still chilling. But if you take a 12 flight, that's probably not good. It's not okay. One is not permitted to fly on Friday morning if the arrival is scheduled to be during Shabbat. The same is true if one flies on Friday morning and the arrival time is scheduled for only a few hours before Shabbat. During the summer, however, although daylight hours are longer, one should consult the rabbi as to whether one is permitted to fly on Friday. I personally think that if you're leaving Friday early morning and the Shabbat starts Friday late night, it's okay. Okay? Look, ideally, one should avoid landing on Friday afternoon if Jewish workers will service the plane on Shabbat. One should similarly avoid taking a flight that leaves immediately after Shabbat if the pre-flight preparations will be carried out by Jewish workers. If you're going to take a Saturday night flight, you have to make sure that it's not... Usually it's only halal. I don't think they allow things like that to be done on Shabbat. I don't know. Spending Shabbat in a plane.
That's only for Jewish workers.
Jewish workers. Ideally, one is not permitted to board a plane before Shabbat and spend the entire Shabbat on a flight, even if non-Jews operate the plane, and even if it would land only on a Saturday night. The reason it's forbidden is because of jet lag and the lack of owning Shabbat. If one has no alternative, the issue must be discussed with the competent rabbinical authority. Let's say, I would think it's a similar issue. If you're on an airplane and then they say delay, whatever it is, we have to continue flying in the air, whatever, do Shabbat. What are you supposed to do? It was actually a crazy story. Remind me, I'll send you a video. It was this story of this a few years ago. This group of Jews, they were on an El Al flight, all of a sudden something happened, and they had to land. The El Al flight was supposed to take off or something, and it took off late or whatever it was. It took off really close to Shabbat, and everyone was like, no, we have to get out, and they didn't let anyone off, and they took off. And all of a sudden they're flying in the air, and it's like 2 hours before Shabbat, and they're not going to make it. And the whole flight is charedim, and they're going crazy. Let us off. They stop in the middle of Greece, I think. They pull off. Everyone gets off. 150 Jews. Huh?
Spend Shabbat in the airport.
Right before Shabbat. Right before Shabbat. They call the Chabad the Chabad 1 hour before Shabbat to prepare 150 meals for 150 Jews. They bring everyone in. They're the most beautiful Shabbat. I have to find the video.
I've seen it.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. You see how Jews take care of one another. But yeah, you see that ideally you shouldn't be flying on Shabbat, especially if the majority of people are Jewish, or if any of the workers are Jewish. For sure, it's not allowed. Okay? Amen. Amen.